Hey, welcome back. We're going to do a site tutorial on an amazing looking website, but we're then going to take it further with some horizontal scrolling, thanks to the amazing code by the Elementor experts. Okay, so we took it from one of their videos and we're going to use it here. So we're going to do a site tutorial. We're going to then turn it into a horizontal scrolling website. And of course, we're doing this all with Elementor, and I hope you find it really, really useful. So I don't know if you noticed or not, but we've already done some of our global colors. It's always good to have a color palette, and we've also done our global fonts. Now you don't have to do this, but I've gone and installed Railway as a Google font. Yes, it comes part of your Elementor, but if you're thinking about optimization and performance, I use Auto-Optimize to remove my Google fonts and I upload them as a custom font because it's just great for performance, but you don't have to do that. That's entirely up to you. So we've got our fonts and we've got our colors in, and what we're going to do is we're going to create about 4 or 5 sections of a web page, and then we're going to convert that to go from vertical to horizontal scroll, and it is dead simple to do. And the code, like I said, is from the Elementor experts, and there'll be a copy of the code and you can go away and play with it. One of the other things also we're going to do is we're going to add in a menu so that if you wanted to jump to another page, you could do that. I don't mean jump to another section within the horizontal scroll. I mean, you might have page 1 is going to be horizontal scroll, but then you might have another page somewhere else in your website, like an about page or a shop page. You hit a menu, you know, it works how menus do. You hit the icon or the header or whatever, and it takes you over to another page. I'm going to show you how you do that as well, and how you ensure that stays in place when you start to use horizontal scrolling, because you don't want it to you don't want to have to scroll all the way back to get to the menu. Now, if you don't care about the site tutorial and you want to jump straight to the horizontal scroll, look at the timestamp in the description and you can jump straight to that section. But I think you don't want to miss out on this amazing site tutorial that I've been planning to do for a while, and I think it's going to look really good. If I get it to work right, let's hope I do. Right, let's get started. Now, whether we're doing a horizontal website or a vertical scrolling website, we're going to have to start off with some sections. But the key bit is we are going to have to ensure that the vertical height for all of them is like 100%. Because if they are not, when you're scrolling, you're going to get a little bit of a, you know, like a effect as you're scrolling, like a wobble. You want it to be consistent. So we're going to create a section. For now, I'm just going to go with 2 columns. I'm going to go in and I'm going to make this a full width for now. In fact, I won't do full width. I lie, it won't be full width. I'm going to go with boxed, and I'm going to go with, say, 1200 in terms of the content, okay? The column gap, there will be no gap, and the height, minimum height, VH 100. Okay, sometimes people try and do fit to screen, which is okay, but if you do minimum height 100, it's kind of flawless. When you do fit to screen, sometimes it doesn't always go to the bottom and you have a little bit of a gap appear. So minimum height VH 100. Okay, and I'm just going to set the column position for this to be, we'll go with middle for now. Okay, now we're going to start basically putting in some content like images and text. So this is standard textbook Elementor, okay? And there's loads of videos on how to do this. But I will go through step by step as much as I can so that you don't get confused. Now, we're not adding in any headers or anything like that at the moment. We're just going to straight onto the page content. Okay, so section 1, we're going to give it a background image. Of course, make sure you've optimized your images. WebP, there's a 2 and a 4 arguments against that, but I prefer WebP, compress, convert, tiny PNG, or bulk resize photos.com. Bulk resize photos.com is where I go to compress and convert them into WebP format. So we're going to pick our image, and I've already uploaded some photos to kind of fit with the color theme we're going for, and I'm going to go with this image over here. Okay, it's a little bit busy, but I'm not too fussed about that at the moment. I'm going to make this a center image. I'm going to say, now, let's test this out, okay? What if we go for, well, if you go for the fixed effect, normally you get the parallax effect when you're scrolling down, so the words go over the image. Because you're going to be eventually scrolling left to right, that's not going to work, so we'll have to add in some scrolling animation. For now, I'm just going to go with scroll. Okay, so not fixed. If you do fixed, it's not really going to work for you. Repeat, no repeat. And in terms of sizing, well, we'll just go for cover, okay? That kind of works pretty self-explanatory really, really well, right? Let's just have a look at that. We have a nice big image over there on the screen now. And this is where I'm going to do a scrolling effect. So what I'm going to say is that as you're scrolling, now you won't see this completely in a way because, well, you will in a way, but it'll become better when we get towards the end of the video. I'm going to have a horizontal scroll because if you have a vertical scroll, which is up and down, which is like something like this, look, as you scroll up and down and it starts to move a little bit, remember, we're going sideways, so we're going to have a horizontal scroll. And I'm actually going to say that as you scroll, this is going to move to the left ever so slightly. So as you scroll, well, eventually left to right, it will move a little bit. Not a huge amount, but just a little bit there. And I'm just going to update that. That is our background done. Okay, now let's add in some content. Let's add in a header. Now my header automatically is the railway font. That's why I did the global font. But in terms of sizing, I like to have a bit of control and power over that. So I'm going to add over here, I'm going to type this to be horizontal scroll web page. Okay, I mean, this is ridiculous, right? I mean, come on, I'm really bad at thinking like, what should we call our website? I'm going to give it a white font. And in terms of typography, it's already railway. REM, always go with REM with your font. Pixels is great for images and bits of layout, but REM for your font. So I've gone with a 3.5 size and a 900 weight. And I'm just going to extend this a little bit. In fact, I'm going to get rid of the word web page because it's kind of going over a little bit too much. For my padding, I'm going to give this some padding of about 20 at the bottom. I'm going to go to my border now and I'm going to give this a solid border, but I'm going to put 0 for everything and just have a 1 for the bottom, and I'm going to give it a white like that. So now we have like a border going in, but I'm not using the divider. I'm now just using the border of the heading, so it's kind of in line with it. Have a think about that, have a play with it, okay? Saves you having to put in an extra widget just to have a line in there. Right, okay, and then what we're going to do is now add in another heading. In fact, I'm going to duplicate, no, I won't duplicate that heading, because I don't want to have the line. I'm going to bring in another heading, and this is where we're just going to put like a subheader content. Again, like, you know, you have a think about what you want to put in here in terms of REM styling, sizing. 3.5 was the top one. We'll go with a 2 here, and in fact, I'll leave it as a 500 there. I think 2 is too big, actually. 1.5, yeah, 1.75. 1.75, we'll go with that. And I'm now just going to add in a bit of text. I'm not spending a huge amount of time on this, by the way, okay? Because I really just want to get across what we're doing here with this website in terms of the horizontal scroll. I'm going to leave this text as it is. In fact, I'm just going to make it just a little bit longer in terms of the text. I'm going to go to the style, make it white. Typography, we're going to go REM 1.2. Going to leave it as a 400. Now I'm going to go to my advanced and I'm going to give this some, you shouldn't always do 000 by the way, because you're adding in extra bits of code. Someone told me that, but sorry, force of habit, I keep doing that. I'm going to go to my margin for the right hand side and I'm going to say 200. 200 is a bit too much. 150. No, we'll go with 100. 100, there you go. That's a little bit better, right? So what you're now getting is like horizontal scroll, subheader content, and then you got some further wording down there. Now this is where you can be a little bit clever, and you could straight away now put in some social sharing icons. So you could either put in buttons to take them to your account. So I'm going to stick this down here, and you could go with the right hand side. Let's go with 3. Let's make them circular. We'll give them a bit of spacing like that. Rather than having the official color, we'll do a custom color, and I'm going to say the background color for this will be like that, maybe. I mean, you might want to go for something that really, really stands out, and the primary color will be white, and then when you hover over it, so let's say they hover over it, we're going to give them a completely different color, and we might give them like a blue color, and they get white, so when they hover over it, they get this kind of like color change going on there. You're going to go in and you're going to say, oh, I don't want YouTube, and you'll change this to be, I don't know, Instagram, for instance. And you'll have it what you want, and then you'll change your sizing. You know, you can start to have a think about your sizing and your styling. And remember, with your social, these icons here, when you put in your address for where it's going to take them, click on the cog and make sure it has open new window. Otherwise, they're going to leave your website. They've landed and straight away they're gone, which you don't want, okay? So just bear in mind, make sure it's open in new window. If you don't want to have your social sharing icons, you could have share buttons as well, okay? So it shares your website to the world. Have a think about what works for you, okay? And I would say don't go overly too crazy with a lot of the content of the website, but have a think about what you're doing. Now, at the moment, that horizontal scroll is in the middle. All of that content is in the middle of the screen. I have to be honest, I'm not liking that anymore. So I'm going to put it down to the bottom. That is now too far to the bottom. I'm now going to go to my column, okay? And I'm going to say to the column, let me go to advanced. I'm going to start it about 150 from the bottom. So, not 150. Start it about 50 from the bottom, okay? So we're at the bottom of the screen, but we're not completely rooted to the bottom, and we're not completely cutting over the ear of the person. So that's a little bit better. If I shrink the column, the line here won't be as big either. So I could just maybe shrink that down a bit as well. Or I could just put in a bit of margin onto the header as well. But look, okay, so that's kind of looking a little bit better. And we can already see a little bit the scroll movement. Now on the right-hand side, this is where I could now put in some further messaging. I'm just going to move myself over to be here. Hello, I'm still here. Okay, now down here, again, we could add in some further content. So I could now take a copy of this box. Let's drop this in over here. Okay, let's go to this column. And I'm going to say, give me about, let's just go with 100 for now. Okay, so we've got a bit of movement coming off the bottom of the screen. I'm going to change this to be left about 100 away from it, from the side, basically. I'm just going to go over here to these wordings. The text editor actually had some part padding there. Let's put that to 0. So the margin is 0, 0 for the text. The column now has, just to make sure you understand, 100 pixels from the bottom, 100 from the right. Now this section here, this text, I'm going to give it some padding. And I'm going to give it padding of about 15. No, 15 is too small. Let's go with 20. Okay. I'm now just going to change a bit the content because it's a bit heavy. So we'll just reduce the content a little bit. And I'm now going to go to advanced. And I'm going to give this a background color for the text. Okay. So what we now get is a background color over there. And you're probably thinking, well, what was the point of that? Well, if I now show you here, what we now have, if I just minimize myself for a moment, we now have the image, we have some text, and we got a bit of a box as well. And I would probably say that box actually needs to be further away over there to the side. So let me just bring myself back into view. Hello, I'm back. I'm over here. Let's just go over here. Let's just go to this section. And let's just say from the left, I think it should be about 200. There we go. And we can now see we've got some further content. So you can have a think about what you're doing. Now, this is going to be section 1, okay? We're now going to do section 2. So we're just going to scroll. I mean, I could, if I want, just make a complete copy of this. And then just mess around with the content. In fact, that is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm just going to duplicate that. So I have another section below. I'm actually going to get rid of the contents here. And I'm going to get rid of these contents as well. Because it's already got like the vertical height and all of that. And I know I'm being a little bit cheeky because it doesn't take long to do really, does it? But it just speeds things up for you. So I'm going to go down here now. And I'm actually going to remove the background image completely. Okay? And I'm just going to, oops a daisy. I'm just going to make this section be a middle, just so it's in the middle, just so we know where it is. Let me just pull myself back down here. Now we have one section. I'm going to add another column. Now in column number 1, I'm going to stick in some text and some images. In fact, I might as well just copy this column back again. God, I'm being a bit reckless here, aren't I? Let's just paste that in. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of the social sharing boxes. And what we can do is just very quickly go over our text and just give it a text color. This is all color 11111, which I find works better than having pure black or having gray text, which is too light. It's just my preference, really. I find that it's easier on the eye. it's not a stark contrast when you have black and white, which can be very, very bold. But look, it's almost as close to black as you're going to get, really, but it is still pretty good there. It's got our black text, and we got that. Now, I'm just doing an example here. So, you could have now, like, you'd have your new header or whatever you'd have here, okay, in terms of your layout. And again, at the bottom down here, you play around, use your widgets. You might have a button that takes them somewhere else to another section or whatever. In fact, we will do that. This button's not actually going to lead anywhere, by the way, and it's just going to be sat on the left of there. We go to style. Let's just sort out the padding for this, because I messed around with it in my global settings. Your button would look a whole lot more better than that, okay? Trust me, it would. We'll go with 20. And we'll go with about 20 over there as well, all right? You play around with your look of how you want it to look. So we're just going to go with a blue button there. And I'm going to give it a border radius of about 15. In fact, let's not do 15. Let's go with 5. Okay, so we just got a bit of a button going on there, right? These buttons are not leading anywhere. You do that in your website. I'm just showing you a bit of a funky layout we've got going on here. Now, in this part here, we are going to add in a image, and we're also going to add in some content as well. And this is where we have to have a little bit of a think now about our content. Underneath here, I want to have another image, okay? And I could, if I want, just add in an image. So let me show you what I mean by that. I'm going to drop in a image just to sit here like that. Okay, remember, this section cannot be bigger than the size of the screen. So this section here, it's to screen. This section here as well, it fits to the screen, but it's now pushing everything up to the top because I'm using up the full estate depending on the size of your screen. I'm using a MacBook, by the way. MacBook, yeah, and I love it. Okay, right, now we're just going to go over to this image, and I'm going to drop in an image, and I'm going to go for something like, now this image, I'm going to set it to be full. People always say, why'd you go with a full image? If it's only that big. It's to do with the resolution of your image. If you go for like medium or thumbnail or whatever, you're going to get, well, basically it's going to be the resolution. It will mess things up. Trust me. Just always go for full. Then we go to size. Now this is where, rather than using the width or the maximum width, I'm going to use the height. And I'm going to go with the vertical height. And look, if I start to do something like this, okay, if I go with 50, it's going to be 50% of the height of your screen. So if our screen is 100%, 50% will now be the image. That is now going to push everything up to the top, depending on your layout. So instead, I'm going to go with a 30. Now, when you do that, you can now see it's now not eating up to the full width of the screen. Now, if you were to start doing something like this is where you're going to be stretching the image, okay? This might not be encouraged, because then you are warping the image. But if you go to Object Fit, and I now do, well, let me just show you. If I do fill, nothing. If I do contain, nothing. If I go for cover, again, nothing. But this is where, if I now go to the width and I do 100, I probably did it in the wrong order. By setting the width to be 100%, it is now 100% of the column. The image now is not stretched. Can you see that? It's now fitting quite nicely there. Okay, so bear in mind that, work on, if you're doing a horizontal layout, images it's best to work out what is your vertical height of that. So I'm going to go with 40%. No, let's not go with 40%. Let's go with 35%. And then I've decided that, right, that is a cover image, and now I get the height. One of the limitations of this, obviously, is that whereas with a section, when you start to do like background, center, and all of that, you can, when you do cover, you can decide if it's bottom, top, center. Whereas over here, you kind of lose out on that luxury. Now it's just a cover image. So you might need to think about your image, what the content shows, and if it's working for you. Now, you can see that on this estate, we have quite a bit of estate now. But the top of it is kind of just a little bit squashed for my liking. So I'm going to click on this column. So I've put 100 margin for the top and the bottom of the column, just so we get a bit of breathing space. Now what I'm doing is I've just added in a blank section there, just so I can see the bottom of the screen. Okay, I'm going to go back to this column over here, and I'm going to say there's a top margin of 100 but 0 on the bottom. So that image now sits perfectly at the bottom of there. This is where you also again have to have a think about your layout, because that image is not currently stretching all the way to the left hand side. So what I'm getting is I'm getting a space there, and when we eventually scroll you will have this white space over there, and I'm not liking that at all. I want this image to actually stretch all the way to the right hand side. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change it now to be a full width. Okay, so I'm going to go over here and I'm going to change the section to be a full width, like so. Okay, that's fine, great. Now the contents though are kind of all pushed over to the left hand side as well, and again, you know, you got to think about your layout, think about what you're doing. Okay, so I'm just going to go over here to my header and I'm going to give it a left margin of 100. And I'm going to do the same for the text as well. Let's just see how that looks though, by the way. So that's now coming in more to the left hand side. Don't worry about the fact that it's not completely in line with the section above. Okay, you got to play around with it a little bit. Don't worry too much because it's going to be horizontal. So we won't have to worry overly about that. I'm going to go to this text over here. I'm going to give that give it a left of 100 as well. And we'll do the button as well and give that a left margin of 100 as well. So what we now have is the image basically stretches all the way to the left hand side, but the text is kind of sat there, you know, it's kind of moved away from the border. Now over here on the right hand side, it's got to check the structure here is still 50%. Yeah, it's still 50%, that's fine. Over here, we're now going to put in some more images and some further text as well, but I'm going to do an inner section. Okay, the reason why I'm going to do an inner section, I'm going to get rid of this bit over here like that, so we have an inner section added in, so it's a column within a column in effect, or a section within a section. Okay, the reason I've done that is because if I now want to duplicate this, I now have two sections sat within. Okay, now this section here, I'm just going to add in a background image for, say, this. I'm going to make this a full width within that section, okay? And I'm going to have no gap, and I'm going to have a minimum height, okay? So this is where now I'm going to say vertical, I'm going to go with 50. So that will take up 50 of the height. In fact, I'm going to do the same with this one. Let me get rid of that. If I now just duplicate this section, okay? So by having two inner sections in effect within there, both at 50-50, they're both going to take up equal spacing. Now this column, in fact this section here, sorry, not the column, I'm going to put another image in. Okay, so I'm just going to go in and I'm just going to pick an image and we'll just go with something like that. Okay, we'll go with center, scrolled, no repeat, and we'll go with a cover, something like that. Okay, again, have a think about what you're going to do and what images work for you. Now, why did we do the section and have a column? Pretty simply for this reason. I'm going to copy that box, this text box here. Okay, I'm going to copy that like that. And I'm now going to paste it into here. So now what we have is some text. I'm now going to change this text. Okay, so I'm going to go to the section and I'm going to change this vertical line to be bottom. Can you see what's happening there? We now have some text within inside this button. I'm going to go to this text bit inside here, and I'm going to say from the right, okay, go about 200 from the right. In fact, let's just get rid of some of the text in here because there's quite a bit. Let's just shorten it down to be something like that. All right, you're going to play around. That's probably too short. Let's go with something like that. There. Okay, so we've got a bit of text in there. So this is now starting away from the right. It is currently taking up a bit too much of the image, so I'm just going to change this image for a moment. Probably wasn't the best image I picked there. Let's just go with this person here, because that might work a little bit better. Yeah, there we go. That kind of works a bit better. Remember though, this text box, this text editor that I've just clicked on again, it does have a background image, but we could click on the color and I could make it just a little bit transparency like that, so we get a bit of an effect going on there as well because of the image. There's a bit of a highlight going on there. Now at the bottom, we could add some further content into here or do whatever we want. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add in another image, okay? Just for the sake of it, because I think why not? Let's just add in another crazy image over there, right? So we're just going to add in an image and we're going to make it center, scrolled, no repeat, and it will be a cover image. So let me just move myself out the way. We have a header, we've got some content going on there. Now, ignore these blue lines, okay? That's just Elementor being Elemental for a moment, okay? This is not now in line, and there's a reason I did it like this. I wanted to show you how, if you start doing something like this, when you try and line it up with the content on the other side, it does not work really, really well. So this is where I would say you either move on and accept you're going to have like a difference in the height, or you do something about it. And I would say do something about it, okay? So I'm not wasting your time, by the way. I'm just showing you how good and bad practice, how things can work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up an inner section and just drop it there, right? Get rid of that column. I'm going to just so quick. It's going to be like, what? How super quick is this? No gap, okay? And the height will be a vertical height of 50, okay? We're going to pick the header up, drop the header in, drop the text in, and we're going to drop the button. Is that dropped in? There we go. I don't think I dropped that in. Did I drop that in? Yes, I did drop that in. There we go. So the button's dropped in as well. I'm then going to just basically get rid of that image completely. Okay, go over to this margin, set this all to be 0 again. All right, so everything is 0, 0'd out. I'm going to now duplicate this section. Just delete the content, delete the content, delete the content. Now stick back in the image we had originally. See how quick and easy it is. It's not that difficult. What was the image we had? There we go, that one. Stick that in, there we go. Center, scroll, no repeat, and we're going to go for a cover. Right, now, look at that, right? It is now equal. And that's what I wanted to get across with you. If you start putting in things like images and whatever, you can make it work for you. And here's how you do your vertical height and your percentage width, so you understand how to do that. But if you want to have equality in the look of it, this will work for you so much better. Of course, though, the text here is way too close. So I would say with this margin, I would say, you know, sorry, force of habit, again, I've gone in there. I would say give it about 50 from the top, and I would say 50 from the bottom. And I'm just going to change the content of this text. Let's take out tons and tons of the text there. So when we're now looking at it, we have something going on here. And because these are, remember, because this is all a column, right? I hope you're understanding what I'm doing here. If I go over to this section here, right? I do say right a lot, don't I? Right. If we go over here and we type in, say, what should we go for? Let's go for an icon. I'm going to stick in an icon in the middle there, and I'm going to go over here and I'm going to type dance. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go for my favorite one. We're going to go for the Mandalorian symbol like that, okay? And we're going to make it be a little bit more whiter and just stand out a bit more like that. And, you know, again, you know, change the color, go for what you want to go for and stuff like that. So when we now view it, we would have, let me just get myself away. You got something like that going on there. And I think that's pretty cool, pretty useful, and I think pretty nice in what it's doing at the moment. Let's now move on to the next section, and we're going to fly through this one a lot more quicker now, because now we've got our setup kind of done. We're now going to duplicate this section because now we kind of know what we're doing here, okay? So now we've got our layout, and this is where we can start to manipulate, change things, whatever you want to do, okay? So I'm going to do something like this now. I'm going to do that, get rid of that text box there completely like that, get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of this column completely. Right, get rid of that column completely. In fact, get rid of the inner section as well. Get rid of that section. There we go. So now we have one column, okay? This section, I'm going to make a 100 vertical height, so it's the pure height. I'm going to go in and change the section to be this person over here. So we're just going to get a face like that kind of thing, kind of effect going on. Again, you'll have a header, you'll have content, whatever you want to do. Don't forget, this is an inner section. So I could now add in 2 columns like so. And I could make, let's just get rid of the text over here. Let's get rid of this button over here. Let's just duplicate this text a little bit like that. Let's duplicate it again and add it over here, right? Of course, you're going to start to mess around with your layout. So I'm going to go with a 20. On the right hand side, we'll go with a 20 as well. This is going to be a middle. That is going to be a middle. This one is going to be a middle as well. There we go. So you can start to think about your layout. In fact, I would probably say make it a top. Make that one be a top as well. Just go over here. Let's just give it some padding of about 50 from the top. So now we've got some text at the top there. You can put whatever text you want. Now with this inner section at the bottom over here, I'm going to get rid of the background image. I'm going to add in a new column like that, okay? And what I'm going to do is over here, I'm going to add in a totally different image. You can tell I love adding images, right? And we're going to add one in of this person here playing some music or a DJ. You can't see them yet. Let's just go with a center, scroll, no repeat, and we'll go with a cover so we can see them a little bit better. Actually, that's a rubbish image. What about if we go with top center? There we go, top center, we can now see their hat. Over here though, now look, when you do it, that's your image. It's looking okay, right? Over here though, in this side here, we're going to add in some content. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to pick up this content box here and we're going to dump it in there, right? That is now dumped in. Absolutely fine. Let's just kind of change the wording a little bit and just have something like that. And I'm then going to duplicate this so we now have it fitting in within there. And we're going to have a 0 widget spacing between them. So I now want them to be kind of right up against one another. The problem is, though, that even if I gave this a different color, I'm getting a white space above one of the boxes and below the other boxes. It's not looking totally good at the moment, is it? And this is where you could add in an intersection within an intersection. I do not recommend you do this overly too crazy because it's not a good thing to do, but I'm just going to show you how you do it. So what we're going to do is we're just going to get rid of the content we have here for now. So here is our column. I'm going to pick up the parent column that contains the intersection, okay? So this intersection here, this is an intersection, remember. The parent for this is this section here. So you go to Navigator. This column here contains the intersection. I'm going to copy that column. Copy the first column, not the intersection, the first column. I then go down to my intersection, or this column over here, and I'm going to paste what we had before. Now, as soon as you do that, it's going to totally screw up what you're doing. So you've got to delete any additional columns, like so. But what it has done, believe it or not, okay, is it goes and adds in all of the content that sat over here. So I've added a copy upon a copy upon a copy. So by me pasting that over, and I've got better videos that explain it in a sections, do a search for it. We now have within that intersection, we now have another intersection over here. And we have another intersection. Let me just get rid of the contents so it's easier to see what we've got there. So there's an intersection, okay? If I go to this section here, this is currently set to be a vertical height of 50. And this is set to be vertical height of 50. Now, bear in mind, we've already done 50. So I'm going to change this to be a 25. And this section, I'm going to change to be a 25 as well. Because don't forget, we've already got 50-50. Now within there, we're going to have 50-50 again, which is 25 and 25. Let me now take this text over here. Let me get rid of that. Don't worry, we are getting onto the horizontal in a moment. In fact, I'm going to do the horizontal now. I think if I do 4, 5, 6, 7 sections, we're going to be going over and over and over too much. But let me just add in the content here. Let me get rid of the background color, okay, because we don't need it on the text box. Let me shorten this text to be just a little bit more concise, something like that. We then go to the inner section, right? And we're going to add a background color. Where is it? Style. There we go. We're going to add, you could do a gradient if you want, even add in a slideshow. You could do whatever you want. Remember, this is all Elementor. I'm going to give it this blue color, which I think is a bit too bright. So let's just go with something a bit more murkier like that. I'm now going to copy that text and dump it in here. So we've got a copy of the text. Go in, style, and give this a darker background color like that. Okay, I'm just going to change the padding on here because I think this has got some padding going on. No, it's not got padding. Something's not right. Hold on. Layout, vertical is middle. There we go. So now we've got, just got to check we've not got too much padding. Sometimes I might have forgotten. There you go. Top and bottom. Let me get rid of that. Let me get rid of that as well. And let me just put that to be in the middle. I hope this is making sense, by the way, okay? Did I do that? Vertical middle. Oh, there you go. Vertical align. Sorry. There we go. Vertical there. So now when we view this, okay, we will be getting this effect. Now, I have noticed there is a bit of a white gap there. So I've just got to double check and investigate what's going on there. Let's just go to the section, go to advanced, 00, style, inner section, no gap, vertical height is 100. We're just going to update this and just view it. Because I have got a gap appearing there at the bottom. Actually, there is no gap. That was misleading. Look, it fits to the bottom. Now, I could spend a lot more time now doing an extra page. And I don't know. Do you want me to do an extra page? I mean, we're here anyway, so why don't we do another section? I mean, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the section number 2, copy that, drop down, do a paste there, get rid of that black box because I don't need that now. If I just go down, move myself out of the way there, we got this inner section and inner section. I'm going to shrink that down just so we can see it properly. I'm going to pick this column up and just move the columns over, swap them over, okay? Go over here, pick this section up, change the background image again, and we'll go for, let's go with this person over here. So we've got someone there. Again, like, look, you could leave this text box here if you want. You just, you know, you could put some text in. Do what you want, you know. I mean, be crazy. Have fun with creating your website. I mean, don't just have fun. Look at your sitemap and think about what you're doing, of course. Don't just do what you want to do without thinking about your context. So we're adding a bit of color there, right? And in fact, I'm going to make this slightly transparent like that so we get a bit of a color effect. And then over here on this side, look, you know, you could have buttons. I'm going to duplicate, you know, let's just pick this up, dump it down, something like that. And then, you know, whatever you want to put, buttons, extra information. I mean, you could even put a contact form in, for God's sakes. You know, come on, let's do it. Let's just put a contact form in. Why not? So we're going to have a contact form in over here. We'll do it as an advanced. I mean, I would say do your padding within your column. I'm just rushing it a little bit now. 100 from there. We'll go with 100 from the right as well. The form, let's just, I don't know, let's get rid of that. Let's change this to be, in fact, I'm going to say don't show the label as the button. Have it as a left button. Change it to say subscribe. You know, you would obviously do your padding and everything else you're going to do in here, okay? You know, I should do it, shouldn't I? Because if I don't do it, someone's going to see this and go, that looks so awful. And it's not. It's just, I'm just being a bit crafty with what I'm doing. Let's just go with a 5 on the border. And we'll go with a 20. And we'll go with 20. I don't know, something like that, okay? So you could have like, you know, whatever you want to put in and however you want to do it. So what we have in effect, if we now view this, and I just minimize myself out the way like that, okay, what you're going to have is you've got page 1, you got page 2, page 3, and page 4. We've just spent a ridiculous amount of time doing our section and our website, and I think it's quite a cool looking website in terms of the color scheme or what it, I mean, just as a vertical website, that could be quite cool, don't you think, in how it looks and the layout and things like that. But now let's do the horizontal effect. This is going to be so simple, you're going to be like a little bit surprised, believe me. There are stages to this. We're going to dump in some code, and then we're going to have to dump in some like JavaScript code as well, but that's easy to do in Elementor as well. What you need to do is go to the cog down here, which is your settings for the page. Now, I've already hidden the title and got this as Elementor Canvas because I'm not having a header or a footer, a header and a footer. But I will show you how we can add an icon at the top, which we could then potentially contain a pop-up menu, or it could be like a header, that's got buttons or links to other pages in your website. But how can we ensure that stays fixed? I will show you that in a moment, right? Let's just get the horizontal effect working. What you're going to do is go to advanced and we're going to dump in some code. You can now start to scroll between the websites. Ignore that white bits because we're not in the full preview, whatever mode, okay? This now is horizontally scrollable. And if you ever want to remove the code, just put in these backslash star backslash or forward slash, whatever you want to call it, and it removes the code so you can start to mess around with it. But by the way, even though it is now horizontally scrollable, you can still go in and mess around with your content. You can still go in and rearrange things. It's just, if maybe you might feel better doing it as a vertical layout and then sticking it back to horizontal. So what this code does really, really well is horizontally on a desktop, you can scroll. But this bit here, what this now says is that is up to a width of 768 pixels. So it's going to pick up the tablets and your mobiles. It will now be vertical. Now, one thing we have not done, and I have to put my hands up here because I should have been doing it all the way along, is we have not checked the content of the layout in terms of mobile. So what you really want to be doing is create it as a vertical layout, as we have done. Check section by section for your mobile responsiveness. And all you're going to do is mess around with your margins, your padding, your text sizing, and your image. Now, bear in mind, when you stick in an image as a section background or whatever, when you go to mobile view, the image will appear grayed out. That's because Elementor is allowing you to click and add in a copy of the image. So right now, our image is a horizontal landscape layout. What you want to do is add a copy of that image in. But what you want to do is you want to edit that image. Okay, and you basically want to, scale it to be, say, 700 in height. Scale it. I'm not going to do that here, so let me just cancel that. So I don't want to mess up my website. Once you've scaled it, you then want to crop it to be about 500, I would say, in width, okay? Because by doing that, it now means that your image is going to look so much better on the tablet and the mobile. If you stick in a horizontal image, as we can see here, it just looks ridiculously bad. It just ridiculously big. So I've got videos on that as well. Make sure you look at that just to see how to do that. Okay, so sorry, my mistake. I should have gone through this stage by stage by stage on the responsive mode. I got carried away, but go through that. You know, don't do what I did. Don't do section upon section. Do one section, because remember, this column here would now sit below this column when you look at it on a mobile view. And you just got to adjust accordingly with your intersections and your heights and everything like that. But it should be quite simple, because we're only working with sections and intersections here. It should be pretty simple. The key bit is, though, the code, like I said, covers you off for that over here. But there is one little bit of code we still need to add. So what you want to do is you want to go back into WordPress, go to Elementor, and go to custom code. And we're going to dump in a bit of custom code here. We're going to click add new if you haven't already added in any code. And we're going to call this, we're going to call it horizontal. You can call it whatever you want, to be honest, as long as you know what it is. Horizontal scroll. I'm going to dump in a bit of code. We do need to change the location, though, to be body end. There we go, and there's the code, okay? There'll be a link in the description so you can go and get the code. Let's just publish that. We're going to want this to be on the entire site. No, we don't. We want it to only be on the pages where we want it to actually hit. So if you have got 5 pages and all of them are going to be horizontal scroll, you're going to have to put this code in for each of the pages, okay? Well, not all the pages. What you do is you go to singular, you go to pages, and you will then in here type in the pages it relates to. So I'm going to type in home, because we only have one home page at the moment. So this is going to apply to the home page. And what it does is it kind of removes some of the stuttering effect you might get when you're scrolling left and right in terms of the way the sections move over one another. You don't want to get this delay-like ghosting effect almost appearing. Right, we've done all that. I'm just going to delete my cache. Why not? We might as well. So now we're going to be viewing this on our private window just to see how it works. Now, I could use the scroll bar down here, or I could just use my button. And we're now not getting a stutter effect. Now, one thing I have noticed, and apologies for this, but the scrolling effect doesn't seem to be working. I'm going to have to investigate, and I'll put an update in the comments or another video at another time. But what we now have is the scrolling effect going on here. So we got our section over here. It's all nicely laid out. We've got our next one. Can you see, by using the inner section to keep the equal or equality of the sizing of everything, it's kind of flowing okay, right? Don't you think? I mean, look, it's fine. I mean, none of these buttons are real. You know, it's not going to click and do anything. But we're now getting a pretty good layout. There's a bit of a, that layout, that white bit there is actually my window. So let me just do that. Okay, because I don't want you to sit and go, oh, look, there's a space there. No, it's not a space, okay? But that's looking pretty good. And if we were to go to mobile, it would now be a horizontal view. So in my opinion, that is so simple and easy to do. And you can have a really cool looking website. I mean, I think this is pretty, it's in your face, right? It's kind of like, it draws me in. I want to go, wow, what's going on here with these images and things? I think it's cool, funky, and does the job. Now, what about a menu? Now, this is where you got to do a little bit of thought, okay? If you add in a header or anything in here, because it sits on this section over here, when you go to the next page, the menu will still be on section 1. So what you need to do is kind of fix it in place so it's always there. Let me show you what I mean. Let me just, over here on this column, I'm going to add in a, well, there's 2 ways to do it. You could do a nav menu. I'll do both ways, okay, just so you can see it. We'll add in a nav menu. And the nav menu sits over there. And I'm going to make this a right aligned. I'm going to get rid of the underlined pointer because I hate that. We're going to make it a white text. And I'm going to say that the active is also a white text as well. Is there going to be a hover color? We'll make it a purple color or something like that. I don't know. You have a think about what you want to do. Mess around with your font, your typography and all of that, okay? I'm just showing you how it works. Now, at the moment, you can see here the width is kind of being slightly paralyzed by this section. So I'm just going to pick it up. It doesn't matter where you put it. To be absolutely honest, you could stick the header, the nav menu in that column. It doesn't really matter where we go. The key bit is what we're going to do with it. I'm now going to go over to here and I'm going to click on positioning and I'm going to click fixed. If you go with absolute, it will be fixed for this section. And when you move on to the next section, it will again move away, which we don't want. So I'm going to go with a fixed. And as soon as I do that, it fixes it to the top over there. Basically to the top of the, well, look, you can see what it's doing. It's already kind of flowing in place. Slight problem we've got is, as you can clearly see now, on the white text, you can't see it, which is a little bit annoying. So maybe we're going to have to give this a little bit of a background padding. So we're going to go background color. Let's go with a, I would say go with a black color. And let's just make it slightly transparent. Something like, I don't know, we could go with something like that, transparent a little bit like that. What you then want to do is go to that nav menu, go to position and make it a custom width. So let me just make sure you're understanding this. The position is fixed and it's fixed to the top. Well, it is now when I do the horizontal orientation. So it's now fixed over there. And by me doing a custom width, if I had done default, all of that has got the black background transparent. If I go with custom, it's now only going to be so much, okay? So it now means that when we cross over into here, you have got that. I mean, that is still very, very faint, isn't it? And I think we're going to have to go a little bit darker than that. That's just way not too good. Let's just update that. If we now scroll now, you can now see you're getting your header kind of thing. It's now scrolling across the top of the screen. Have a think about your padding, your spacing and all of that. That is one way that you could have a menu system in place, right? So if I go to the, let me just show you that in motion. Let's just go to the page over here. Let's just refresh that. There you've got your menu system there. As I scroll, you've now got it at the top there. I have found it very troublesome and you got to use loads more code, and I don't like to overdo it with code because I'm trying to think about what's going to be easy to understand for you, me, and everybody else. You could click on here and it takes you to like section 3 on this page. I would rather say you just have a scrolling animation, you just have a scrolling effect, and this takes you to the shop page. You know, this is going to take you to, look, the shop page, which could be, look at this. This is still vertical, right? Don't ignore, you know, I mean, ignore this menu. This is me just doing 2 different headers and whatever. You could have your blog and it takes you there. You could have your team page and whatever, you know, and you got your home page and it takes you back. So you could have a mixture of vertical and horizontal layouts. That is super, super good. I love that. But what if you don't want to have a menu like that at the top? So what you could do is, and we're near the end, everyone, is instead of doing that, you could in effect stick a icon. We'll put the icon here, in fact. We'll change the icon to be bars even. We'll change that to be a white thing, and we may have to do the background color as well again on here because of the fact we got the white effect. Didn't think of that, did I? So we could go with a black there. We'll just make it a slightly transparent, again, not overly too transparent, but just transparency enough. Again, you're going to go to your advanced tab, which we're already in. We're going to make this a custom. So now it is shrunk. We are going to go to the positioning and make this a fixed. As soon as we do that, can you see it's now right at the top there? We're now going to make it a stick to the right. Unfortunately, though, it's now over the menu. That's if you were going to have both. You probably wouldn't have both, but I'll show you what you could do anyway. Let me just shrink the size of this a little bit to be something like that. This is where, you know, you're obviously going to mess around with your padding and everything like that. I mean, here, look, let me just show you. If I go to positioning now for that icon over there, I'm going to offset it from the vertical to be about there. All right, you do what you want. I've gone with 10 pixels from the top, okay? I could even do some pixels from the right as well. Sorry, let me just do it like that. So it's not completely up against the border, 12.2. If I now click back onto the navigation menu, okay, again, with the custom positioning, again, you could either be really scientific with it or just move it. Again, you know, do what you want with it. Change your layout, change how it looks, the height and all of that, okay? So there's loads of stuff you can do with that. You can then click the icon, okay? Go to content, click the dynamic tags over here. And if you've created a pop-up header, like a pop-up like menu, so the header comes down or it off canvas comes off the screen. I don't know if I've got any off canvas on here. If I go to pop-up and I click the wrench, have I got a pop-up on here? I think I have. No, I haven't done any pop-ups, but if you did, no, I haven't done any. So if you had, you'd pick it, and what that would then do is when you click it, a menu then slides in, and then you could click it to take you to another page, or it slides down. You can have so many different animations here. But what I was trying to get across to you was if we now view that in our private window, over here like that, and I'm just going to move myself out of view. Right, we have our menu over here. And as we scroll, I mean, look, bear in mind, I haven't done it properly, okay? I haven't done the margins and the padding and all of that. But you do it properly, and you would then have your icon sat above there, or however you're going to display it. But that is a super, super, super genius and simple way to do a horizontal website. And I think, you know, work on your vertical, work on your responsive mode, which I should have done. Do all of that, add the code in, and you now have a horizontal scrolling website. I mean, super, super cool, right? Hey, look, I hope you like, subscribe, share, and follow. Leave your comments, experiment, have fun with this. Super duper thanks to the Elementor team for sharing this code because I love it. Okay, but hey, look, I hope you had fun. Take care, and I'll see you soon.